iPad instead. I cannot believe this. It's absolutely ridiculous on the timing. Okay. Oh my god. I do not understand why this is happening today. This is ironic and angering on so many levels. So many levels. All the preparation in the world. I'm so glad you guys can finally hear me. Oh my god. I think I've probably lost a lot of folks trying to deal with all of the hoopla. I've gone live the exact same way multiple times. Not a single problem. Not a single issue going live on my computer before. But it seems like today it chose to completely just not cooperate. Unfortunately, I don't know how to screen share on my iPad. Oh, and I got something in my teeth now. So that's embarrassing. I don't know why that would have happened like that. That's the odd thing, because I have done the exact same thing on all of this and I've never had a problem until today. So I'm not sure what's going on or why, but I'm glad that this seems to be working. We're on my iPad. I'm trying to figure out where to look because it's kind of odd with the structure, but I won't be able to show my little presentation like I wanted to. But hopefully people don't quit. So Billy says so much suspense. I mean, it's just so agitating. I've gone live using all the software and everything I just had on YouTube before, so I don't know what just happened with my computer or the YouTube on the computer for it to just completely just like lose its mind. I'm like, I've literally never had this issue before. So granted, they've only been going live on YouTube for a couple weeks, so I don't want to take forever waiting for too many people. But in the meantime, you guys can send, you know, like send some stuff in the chat. I'm trying to make sure that I can see, make sure I can see everything. There we go. So I can keep all of this up. If you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to send them. I won't be able to show my pretty little presentation, but it might be really useful in terms of, I guess, at least just getting acquainted to a slightly messed up space. And I'm also going to try and go live really quickly on my other two platforms to make sure that things are cooperating. So I just hate it so much. It like deeply upsets my soul. It upsets my soul whenever you prepare for something and you have everything laid out you're supposed to have out and you take the time and then it chooses to just not work. I mean, just absolutely insane, but that's okay. We're here. We are full of cheer, some anxiety. And then I'm just fixing this live on here because I know that some folks probably got frustrated and didn't get back on, which I don't blame them because after 3 tries, I'd probably be pretty angry too. So I can't really show you my little presentation. I can try and show it, but it's going to be backwards and I don't know how to mirror it. So I don't know if that's worth it to y'all. But welcome to Intro to Resistance. As I have stated previously, I am an imperfect teacher. I have taught classes my entire life, and things will always be mildly chaotic, even when I try to make them not chaotic. Sometimes it's just what ends up happening, unfortunately. So I grew up in rural Texas. I'm the child of both an immigrant and a mother from South Central LA. And so I grew up in a lot of, we'll say, movement, a house full of lots of things. I'm also the middle child of 2 boys who are very, very, very fascinating, to say the least. I love my brothers, but they are something special. They're very noisy. And so that just giggled. And so I've always found that no matter what I do in my personal life, things will find me, chaos, good things, all of the mix of things. So when you are somebody like that, I think sometimes you kind of just have to eventually adjust to navigating and working around that. So I'm gonna try and show you guys this. It is backwards though, because like I said before, life today. So oh my gosh, it has been a moment. I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm like laughing at myself. I'm laughing at all of this because anyways, okay. So if I can do the little thingy. Welcome to Intro to Resistance. Today, backwards. So, my name is Abiola. Of course, this is flipped the wrong way. And I don't know how to fix it because I think there's a way you can flip some of these, but at this point, I'm not going to touch it. I am both technologically savvy and technologically challenged. I know that doesn't make sense, but it makes sense. You may know me as me, or you may know me because of all of our favorite little furry little friends. All of our babies right here. And they are actually being really silent today, which is really lovely. And I'm quite excited and quite happy with it. So part of the work that I do in general, because I feel like it's really important to introduce yourself and make sure that people know who you are, who they're listening to, is I do a mix of racial justice work. I do a mix of, in general, visual art. So I'm a photographer, videographer. I do different things. I've worked with some national organizations that I'm very proud of. I've worked with some local organizations that I'm very proud of. So all around, just kind of having an expansive set whenever it comes to engaging in different types of fields. It's really important to me, I think, especially whenever we talk about, about maximizing our reach, maximizing how we approach things to really include the identities that we come with this with. So I talk a lot about being from rural Texas because I found out the hard way that last year there were a lot of people who did not know where I was from because I have lived in Washington, D.C. I have lived in Atlanta. My brothers currently live in Atlanta. I have lived in Boston. That's where I got my degree from. And so with that being the case, really being able to carry those identities with you. But like I said before, the last year I've had a lot of people that are like, we didn't know that you were from very literally like country ass road because of how I look and sound. So being the child of an immigrant and the child of a mother who likes to call herself a reformed hood rat gives me a really interesting, I think, opportunity to talk about these issues. So that's a little bit about me. My background, I'm also an author. I did write a poetry book a few years back. I don't really talk about it because I think sometimes calling yourself an author is like a whole thing, especially when you do write a long book. I know that's stupid. But like I said, today we're going to be really raw and down to earth because that's kind of been what we've been dealing with so far today. Anyways, so for a little couple of housekeeping things, and again, I'm sorry this is backwards, but you guys still want to see it for some reason. I don't get it, but y'all are amazing. So this course and kind of talking about the roots of it are going to be focused obviously on resistance, but a lot of what we're going to focus on are non-traditional forms of really thinking and framing resistance work. A lot of what people call and see as resistance, I think, is correct, if we're being quite honest, but it's also wrong in the sense that it's so much more than people just standing up. It's people doing everything, doing nothing, all these combinations of things that we'll get into in a little bit. When it comes to this course, you will be getting a certificate. I'm currently working on accreditation. So I run a nonprofit called Disturbing Inequity. This is part of the section called Disruptor Institute that I've been working on for a while. And so at the end of this course, you will be getting a little certificate. Once I get accreditation, knock, 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 hopefully in about 6 months, people will get an accredited certificate following up with that. So the results of this course, I plan on people being able to actually really think about resistance and put it into action in their life. Obviously, there is a lot going on right now in the world, no matter where you live, but especially if you're in the United States, you're going to be dealing with this really uncomfortable stage with everything that, with everything that we're in. So the state of a lot of things right now is very unstable, but at the same time period, it reflects a lot of the history that we have, and people aren't aware of that. So I want this to be useful for you to take home in your real world and use it every single day. I want to hopefully allow people to inspire themselves, inspire others, and that's kind of what the result of everything I would like to be. Then the structure. So as you can see, I'm flexible because chaos. The structure typically is going to be that we are going to have these once a week. The next class will be on Tuesday, and they'll be on the following 2 Tuesdays after that. I'm trying to figure out when to schedule like a little discussion section, because I know that some folks might want to actually sit down and chat with one another, but I want to make sure that I have a platform that's not Zoom. Zoom is expensive. Also, they're not really good with privacy sometimes. A couple other concerns that I have. So once I have a platform like that I'm happy with, that I feel like is going to be safe and encompassing for anybody's disability needs, then I will be sending that out. And those will probably be also once a week. I'll just pick kind of a time and make sure that it's shifting. Anybody who can't make these classes on the Tuesdays that I'm going to have them in because of time zones will be able to have rewatches. Obviously, today's session is fascinating, but on Tuesday, I'll kind of back up, and then I may schedule an extra one right at the beginning of March if everybody's okay with that, so that we can do that. I do not know how to use Discord. I'm going to be quite honest. It stresses me out. I'm going to be quite honest. It doesn't make sense that somebody can be like an awarded videographer but cannot figure out Discord, but that is who I am. But so it's kind of going to be a mix of things on that. Office hours are going to be every single Tuesday, I think, from 12:30 my time, so 12:30 Central to about 1. I'll have another set office hour maybe on like Fridays, so that way Discord is difficult, yes. So that way it'll be easy for everybody to kind of adjust. I also want to say hopefully, I don't know, obviously I'm neurodivergent, so I am really good at multitasking, and I don't mind other people also kind of being their fullest selves whenever it comes to the way that we approach things. So feel free to send a question at any time that you have it. If I don't find it, you might have to resend it, because especially since I'm on YouTube on my iPad, I don't know how to keep them up, so I see them as they come up. But you're always allowed to ask a question no matter what I'm doing or what I'm saying. I might tell you I'm going to get back to it, but you're always at least welcome to put the question forward. You're always welcome to ask questions. It's the kind of space that I have been fostering for a very long time, where we make it a space that allows for people to really engage on a level that works for them. I'm always big on respect. Obviously, we will have none of the phobias involved in this space. I will hurt your feelings if you do any of those, any of them. I will do that, but I really do encourage questions. And if a question is well-meaning, especially if somebody really is trying to adjust and understand something, I'm always open to trying to help somebody walk through it, because that's who I am. I also want to say, though, as a just disclaimer, that not everybody that you meet that even has the same background, whatever, is going to be willing to do that, and that is okay. But in this space, you are okay to ask things. That is something that I always want to establish. What else do I have on here? Oh, environment. That kind of touches on our environment. Again, if there are any questions, just send them in the chat. So, I'm sorry, this cracks me up. Okay. Disruptor Academy, it's Disruptor Institute, but we switched the name. Disruptor Institute is a comprehensive online classroom that focuses on racial justice, history, and strategy for both adolescents and adults. So this is kind of what you guys are involved in now. This is the programming that I have been developing for the last couple of years. And what we try and focus on in any of the programming work that I do in person and online, again, is really trying to prepare people to break down a system and to rebuild one. And I'll send these out to you guys later. So people have been asking about books, etc., etc. I have a program that we'll talk about right after this, where I work on trying to get whatever money I can and buy books and then send them out to people. We're going to be reading a lot of different materials that I'm going to send out on Friday, and I'm going to try and have a PDF for anything and everything that's free. If you are somebody who is low income, in general, just isn't able to get the books, I would ask that you guys submit a book request form. A bunch of you guys have done it, and it has been very exciting terrifying, but also very exciting to see so many people want books. I love it. And so you can either submit a book if you'd like to donate to help towards the cost of me sending books out to people. You can do that as well. But for anybody who is financially stable, I would ask for you to purchase these books directly. Most of these authors are still alive. I also do kind of have a rule that if somebody if an author has passed away and they were revolutionary that would not have been upset about getting a free copy, I will just send the free copy out to everybody. That's one of the things that we're going to talk about, is kind of really demystifying and I think breaking down some of the colonial thought that we have around purchasing, because there are some times where people guilt people about pirating and certain things, but there's certain areas where it's really important. So these books, though, however, I would like you guys to purchase it. I will send out the list via email. Yes. On Friday, tomorrow is Friday, you guys will get like a full syllabus with everything. So you'll get links to everything. And the links to buy the copies will also have the bookstores that I'd like you to support. For example, Dr. Jen Jackson, who is phenomenal, obsessed, has a book called Black Women Taught Us, and they have a certain set of preferred book organizations that libraries, organizations that they would like to make sure they support. So I will send those. Libby is also another option, and I include that as well as, is it Library Cat? There's something and it's like Library Cat or something like that, and I have that on the link. So yes, if you sign up for the emails, you can do that in the link in my bio, Chris, beacons.ai/Abiola. It's in like every link on everything. You can find it somewhere. So yes, so I will, part of the reason why it takes me so long sometimes to do certain things, World Cat. Is it World Cat? I think World Cat. So one of the reasons why it takes me a long time to do things is because not only, again, my type of neurodivergencies, I like for things to be aesthetically pleasing. Learning was always easier for me whenever I liked what I was looking at and it didn't hurt my eyes. So anything I send out, I try and make sure that it looks like something somebody wants to look at. But number two, I like to make sure that everything is very intentional when it comes to links. So that's why I didn't just want to send out a list of books and have people go get them off Amazon or wherever. I want for folks to make sure, if they can afford to do so, to get them from the sources that, especially where the authors actually come from. So like Haymarket Books is also a great option, but I include all of this on the list that I'll send out. So if you want to like take a screenshot, you can keep these, but you guys will get all of this, so you don't have to worry about that. I try and send everything because I don't want people to have to obsess over taking notes and feeling like you'll miss something. But this is just an overview. So the reason why I wanted to show this also is because these books are all written in very different time periods. So we have some of these from the 60s, 70s. This is a law book. Nobody is going to be able to buy this for the most part. I'm going to have pages that I've gotten online that I'm going to send to you, because this is like one of the foremost books on what everybody likes to call critical race theory, but it actually is about critical race theory because it goes through history. This is a $400 book though. So I don't even have a copy. So I'm not expecting anybody else to get a copy of this little one right here in the corner. So I'll be sending out like some PDFs of that to make sure. And then we have Huey P. Newton right here, some other folks. Brisa says your message was retracted, so you might have to resend it. Okay, yes. So now, this is, again, what we have already here. Yes, you'll get all this in an email. Anything I have, you'll get an email. If you don't get an email, just reach out to me and ask me for it. To be quite honest, I'm somebody who I don't mind when people want extra materials, so just ask and I'll make sure that I send it. And that's why the sheet that I'm sending also with all the other reading will have hyperlinks to everything. So like you don't have to Google search it. You're going to be able to click on a link, buy it, click on a link if it's free. Like the To Die for the People is free on the internet. You don't have to purchase it because Huey P. Newton is long gone. And sometimes some of the financials don't go back to the family anyways. So that's another thing. And if you'll notice, there will be almost no white authors on anything I do. That's very intentional. Mariam Kaba, her book, she co-authored with a white woman, but we are very, very intentional here whenever it comes to who we're learning from. And especially in the author world, which is a whole rant I could go off of a project I'm working on of how many authors that are white write predominantly about Black pain stories. Okay. So when we talk about what is a revolution, I took some screenshots of some of the responses you guys sent from your first assignment. Oh, that reminds me. So anytime I send an assignment, I'm going to give people probably like a week total to complete it if they need to, because again, as somebody who's currently a grad student, somebody who has been a student, and somebody who has taught classes since I was a teenager to different groups of folks, everybody needs flexibility sometimes. I am going to ask that people do complete their assignments though at some point, because I am going to be using what you send and putting it into a tracking system to figure out whether or not you're going to get your certificate. So if you care enough about getting your certificate, you got to make sure you submit things. Now, I asked the question, what is a revolution? And some of the responses that you all sent were, these were just some of the ones that I kept that kind of stuck in my head. One person put a significant culture change. Love that. A revolution is rebelling against the status quo in an effort to bring relief and liberation from oppression. Somebody else said an uprising, what is considered the lower class of a society, to overthrow the ruling class. Somebody put down here, revolution is the transformation of a country's socioeconomic and or political landscape. Revolution happens when people disrupt the normal system through force and demand a new system or change to be made. Events that come to mind are the Haitian Revolution, revolutions of change brought about, etc., etc. I'll put these on a list because I really enjoyed some of these responses. If you didn't get an assignment and you haven't gotten any emails, send me a DM, and you might need to re-sign up with the link in my bio. But if you message me, I'll make sure that I put you on the email list manually. Some people also had typos in their emails, so I went back through and corrected the typos. But it's nothing too crazy. Like I said, I want to actually treat this as a real course, because I know some people have joked about teaching online and then they just kind of say some stuff and move on. I'm not one of those people. So you did get it. It's okay, Rosalind. We all make mistakes. So these are, to me, all correct in a sense. And so I said at the beginning of this that people's perceptions of revolution are both right and wrong, in the sense that sometimes when we think about revolution and the first things that come to mind are so framed heavily in what we think we have to be doing rather than what actually can be done. That sounds very complicated. So, now, I'm going to reference a lot of people during this. And again, I'll try and keep a list. So, if you ask Nina Simone what a revolution is, Nina Simone would tell you that it is joy. She would tell you that it is liberation. She would tell you that it's happiness. She would tell you that it's silliness. She would tell you that it's art. Nina Simone is a figure that constantly talked about revolution in any and every framework that she felt like was important to being Black, was important to doing things that were heavily rooted in essentially fighting against the status quo, like one of the commenters said. If you ask Mariama Kaba, who is, again, who we've talked about a couple different times, and again, this is like one of her books. I just ordered 10 of these, so these will be on the list to mail out. What revolution is, she has a quote that I can't see because it's on my notes on the side, but it basically talks about it being communal care, and it also talks about a revolution being engulfed in looking towards something that is for us all. In the sense, she says it's both breaking down something and rebuilding something, and doing so with the mindset, again, that we are like all we got. This book is called Let This Radicalize You, but she has a book called We Do This Till We Free Us, and it also talks about reciprocal care and all of these other things. If you ask, oh, it just didn't show the other one. There we go. If you ask Audre Lorde what a revolution is, she would tell you that revolution is rest. She would tell you that resistance is rest. A lot of her works touched on feminism, Black feminism, being full of making sure that we are taking care of ourselves, but not do it in a way that is going to be framed in a patriarchal mindset. And by that, what she tended to talk about in some of her work, and I'm just summarizing, you cannot summarize these people's work in 5 minutes, but what I think she means by that a lot of the times is dissecting whether or not our rest is essentially cute. And the Nat Ministries book that one of you guys saw and said that you have, which I love, talks about that too often we view resistance, revolution, rest, when we talk about rest as resistance, as going out and buying a bunch of facial cream and getting your nails done. And while that's true, it's also not enough. And so I want people to really keep in mind, we're going to talk about a lot of things that are, but also are not. Okay, now, for the definition that I use, and that I really kind of like to hold within for other folks to kind of be able to understand this, is an intentional targeted disruption led by people to overhaul and build a new system. I say intentional in the thought that people are doing something that they are able to frame with the idea of it being a revolution. But that does not necessarily mean that they have to be saying, I'm going to sleep, and like, you know, it doesn't count towards that without it being recognized in the traditional sense. That's not necessarily what that means. The quote, and I can't play it because I'm going to have to X out to do that, so we're not doing that today. But the quote, "The revolution will not be televised," is probably one of the most misquoted phrases and in general pieces of music from a resistance era, I would say, out of all of the works. Couple of the people on that also were, I don't know if they're actually teaching a class, but that talked about teaching in classes, I saw in their syllabi and a few other things that they were talking about the revolution won't be televised. The revolution won't be televised was not about the revolution very literally being hidden from media. Often when you see that quote, people will say, oh, like media suppression, the revolution won't be televised. Media this, the revolution will be televised. But actually what Jill Heron talked about in a video that I'll just email out to you guys was that the revolution won't be televised meant that you're not going to necessarily see it written out somewhere that says people are revolting. You're not going to see it written out in, you know, as we're going through something saying this is, you know, very specifically the beginning and the end of a revolution. What he means is that a revolution happens through people, and it's not going to always be something that you can tangibly touch, but it is going to be something, yes, it's internal. A revolution is going to be something that if you're looking for it in the right way, you'll see it, but you're not going to see it like you'd expect to see it, right? There's not going to be, you know, a banner that comes across TV that's like, this is the revolution right now, because it's something that has to happen in people everywhere. And it's a very deep part of that change that we don't see. I'm so glad so many of you guys recognize it. That's so good. Yes, because it's internal. Because like I said, a lot of people quote it and they really don't understand what it means. And he corrected it multiple times throughout his life and it still gets misquoted. And the reason why it matters isn't necessarily because what people are thinking is wrong, but it's because people aren't able to really capture the essence of what he's saying. When you change it from being, oh, it just won't be shown on actual television, to it's going to be so deeply embedded in our structures, it's going to be so deeply embedded, fighting against it in our structures is going to be so deeply embedded in people's minds, you're able to see that it's the smallest things that make a very big difference, rather than people feeling like you have to go and, you know, blow up a storefront, right? That's also revolution, but also revolution can be the small conversations you happen to have with somebody in your area that has held very racist views and is able to transition to a better state of being. All of that is revolution. Okay, so again, I'm not going to play this right now because we're just not going to mess around with the tech, but I talk about Leadbelly a lot. It's an obsession. It is one. Leadbelly is named William Ledbetter, and he was born and raised in New Orleans, and he is known for actually coining the term woke. Often you'll see the term woke attributed to Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey did not say that. Marcus Garvey said, wake up, people. But Leadbelly actually used the term woke very specifically first because he wanted for Black folks to be aware of what was going on. And he, you know, not only did he come from a background that was traditionally uneducated, you know, he was in prison for killing somebody when he was young, but he really felt like from that standpoint that it was just simple and it was an easy way to look to the people around him and tell them what to look out with, you know, just to pay attention and just to be ready and prepared in numerous aspects. And so there's a song called the Scottsboro Boys. That's where he uses the term first. And I'll also send this out. And it's really important to understanding the mind frame that came forward. Now, there was a question. I think the question said, because it won't let me show all them, is revolution always a collective? And it depends. That's the best answer I'm going to be able to give you right this second. Okay, so a couple of the books that I recommended, one of them is called Negroes with Guns. And this was a book that I got as a teenager, and it very literally changed my life. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. And the writer of this book, Robert F. Williams, is pictured right here with his wife. They started a really important movement in the southeast coast, because we're going to use that term a little bit, to not only fight back against the white supremacists in the area that had been trying to terrorize them, but they helped to arm the NAACP chapter there. And the NAACP, as somebody who's an NAACP award winner, who has been vice president of the DC branch and a couple of other areas, the NAACP has often been on a more at times reserved stance. So to have somebody very literally publicly take their members to get, trained in how to shoot, publicly making sure that like their members were knowledgeable about how to use a weapon, how to, see a weapon, how to buy a weapon, was very controversial. But it was one of the most powerful, taught, visible moments that we see in resistance history that talks about people being able to very literally physically arm themselves. Physically arming yourself is just as important as mentally arming yourself. And that's going to be a big part of what we talk about, regardless of, I know people have controversial feelings. Many people, especially if you're from certain types of blue states, have been taught to fear arms from an understandable point, right? Because we know that there's a hyper weaponization in the United States. We know that we have some of the highest gun rates, but when we talk about it in a revolution standpoint, it's about being able to combine practical solutions and being able to protect yourself and recognizing how those solutions should and shouldn't be applied, right? It's not about saying go buy 10 guns. It's saying, hey, we're going to teach you responsible ownership because of what's going on here, but also we're going to make sure that we're combating some of the issues that happen in the first place. This is not a stance that anybody has to have saying, that like guns aren't whatever. I think sometimes people have sanitized so much of revolution history that they really forget how much, especially the 60s, when we talk about Malcolm X, when we talk about those civil rights activists that were, considered to be more militant, how much weapons were a part of the work that they did, but the approach that they had to them was very different, and it was rooted in a revolution and resistance mindset. Now, in part of the video series that I've started, and I've shifted the functioning a little bit because, again, I'm in Texas right now. We've had terrible Wi-Fi issues. It took me 24 hours to upload the last video. So I'm going to have to, instead of doing them daily, they're going to be twice a week, and I'll do 3 stories in each one so that you guys are able to get everything that you need. But one of the ones that I have in the video that I just posted that we talk about briefly, but not in depth yet, oh, you're also in Texas, hello, is the Amistad Rebellion. And today I released a video where we talked about how there were a lot of slave uprisings, slave revolts that happened on ships. 10% documented that we know of so far of every single slave ship that went from Africa to the United States, or in the surrounding areas that were part of the slave trade, had revolts of some kind. Whether they were small resistances, whether they were large-scale resistances, it was not known for having peaceful journeys, right? But a lot of that history got scrubbed because of the fact that during the same time period we're talking about, this one in particular was in, 1831, was during a time period in which much of white America was feeling terrorized at the idea of Black uprising. So one thing that you'll see consistently when it comes to anti-resistance history is that there is an intentional framing, not only to minimize the work that is happening, but it will also work very hard to make the people that are afraid of whatever may be coming to feel appeased by the way that they reframe the narratives. Most people on the videos I asked can't name that many revolutions off the top of their head. And it's not even in the sense of forgetting the actual date or the name, but not really being able to easily recount so many versions of resistance movements that have happened because they have not been taught to us. Most people have never heard of the Amistad Rebellion. Most people have not heard of it. But this rebellion actually ended up going to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the enslaved people. And all these people that were a part of it, none of them got charged. They all got released. And it was a rebellion where you had, I think, it was 20 people, freeing a few hundred. They ended up rerouting the ship. It was very powerful. But people do not know that enslaved people actually won some of their Supreme Court cases, aside from when we talk about, the Dred Scott era. And so that is a really big part in how we look and learn about this. And I show this image because, again, I was want to warn people. We're talking about resistance. There will be gore occasionally. I'm going to try and always give you guys warnings. But we're not just talking about things that are not tangible. We're also talking about physical and physically fighting back. So this is a drawing that came out during the time period of the person who led the Amistad Rebellion killing the captain. That's one image. Things are just not cooperating. It's fine. So I have this picture on here, and it's supposed to have questions, and it's just Yeah, it's not cooperating. So, I kind of wanted to spend a little bit of time having people send in their chats kind of what their initial questions are for the rest of this. So I wanted to set a positive beginning of the course. Obviously, we've had some struggles today, which is fine. There are a bunch of things I could have gone off on a tangent about, but we're not. We're just gonna make it work. So I wanted to stop and kind of see where people's heads were at in terms of what you're looking forward to, what you're expecting, what you are anticipating. Because if nothing else, everything that we do in terms of education always has to be accessible, or else it's not useful. Part of my mantra is that if people can't receive what you're learning, if people can't learn what you're giving. If they can't receive what you're trying to get them to learn, then what you're doing is not useful in the long term. So I wanted to take a few minutes to kind of get some initial thoughts. I've gotten some questions that I've seen in the chat. I think I can watch them on the replay, which is great. But what are you guys all kind of feeling in terms of anticipation for what the next month is going to look like? Because I want this to be engaged. I also want for folks to, again, be aware, excuse me, that I take this as serious as you take it. I know that this work is really important to many of you all, and I'm excited that, thank you, I'm excited. Y'all are excited. It means a lot to me that people are really looking forward to learning, especially outside of a traditional school system. But I want to make sure that every single part of that is also keeping that in step. The age appropriate stuff, I can get you the age appropriate stuff. I think I can actually, yeah, oh no, I cannot take a screenshot on here. Oh, I did. That's so cool. Super interested in learning how people have organized historically. Yes. Awesome. Okay, I'm taking screenshots on here. If you guys have anything on TikTok or Instagram, just send them. Yes, this is all wonderful. Historical organizations. And part of the video series that I'm working on that's also going to be in addition to this is kind of walking people through the history, because we hear about slave revolts, but we also don't hear about the resistances that came from people trying to overthrow small Black towns, right? Like, even though the Tulsa Massacre happened, there were other options, other things that happened in the same time period where people successfully stood their ground. Okay, great. And yeah, if you guys have them on TikTok, just feel free to send them, or you can message them to me. I do a pretty good job of checking my messages now, actually. Pretty good. Not perfect, but pretty good for me. More resistance. Awesome. Current practices, yes. And for a lot of these questions, quite honestly, like, this is probably going to be one of the best things, is this book right here. Awesome, lovely. I got you guys on here. Now, I will say, I do want to focus on having things on YouTube, and the reason for that is, number one, TikTok is fickle. So TikTok, we're still on here right now because I know that we had a lot of tech issues, but TikTok can be very fickle. I have gotten live violations for literally nothing. And I also think that I want for you guys to be able to visually engage with the content. So I'll still go live on here for some of the classes, but I really want for folks to focus more on the YouTube platform so that you guys can more engage more generally. But I'll still go lives on both of yours just because. But I'm just letting y'all know, sometimes I don't trust TikTok. So hopefully they don't shut it down just because I said that. I've gotten violations for literally everything. Some of them I deserved. One I deserved, and that was it. Better manage conversations of discussions and large group folks trying to organize. Yes, it's brilliant. You can learn about the history. Yay, yes, okay. Non-centralized durable movements. Yes, that's really important work. Join because looking for a space to learn without fear-mongering. Yes, I'm glad. I hate fear-mongering. I am very against fear-mongering. I always want people to think about and know that there are some things that are really scary right now, but there are a lot of things that are being shown to you in a way that is just going to make you panic, and the panic is not productive, and it's also not necessary. You know, some of the panic is like Y2K. That's like the best thing I can compare it to. I was not a part of Y2K, but my parents were, and they talked about how hilarious it was to see some of it. Community care aspect, lovely. Anything else from y'all on TikTok? I'm trying to make sure I get everything, because I can't go back to TikTok comments on live. But again, you can also message them to me. Learn about the past. Lovely. Yes, right now there's certain things that are being treated like Y2K. Polly Murray, awesome, got you. Oops, oh no. Sorry TikTok, I closed the screen. I told you for somebody in their 20s, I should really not have the tech issues I have, but I do have them, unfortunately. But it's okay. Canada. Awesome. Hello, Canada. Understanding the past and present, the less scary it is. Yes, the more you learn about history, well, it depends. If you're an anxious person, it might get more terrifying, but if you reframe it, it'll get better. You have to reframe it. That's the biggest thing. Okay. If anybody has any other thoughts, please send them to me. You can respond to the email that I sent. Resistance from the disabled community. Yes. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Oh, thank you. I'll have these on the site later too. I just forgot to send them out. I'm glad you're watching with your bestie. Thank you so much for doing that. Okay, I got a couple more over here. Okay, lovely. Trying to find footing in this area with new spinal cord injury. Yes, the disability aspect is really important. I make the argument constantly that the internet is actually better to do the work that we do, even though I know a lot of folks are constantly talking about the fact they feel like the internet ruined things. But the internet, what it has done, and part of the reason why people feel so overwhelmed, is that the internet made it to where you can view everything that's happening in real time. We have never in the history of our world been able to get information within minutes from another country of what is happening and have it be displayed visually. So there are a lot of things that feel much scary that have been going on for a long time because we can see it immediately as it happens. And it's a good thing in a sense because it does give people the ability to get real-time updates without having certain kinds of filters and without playing games of telephone through newspapers and other things. But it does make it scarier. I think part of the reason why people feel really terrified around is because you can literally see everything. You couldn't see things like this that quickly then. And so it also helps us to organize faster. And because of it, we have a lot of opportunity to do organizing that is much more disably mindful, significantly more. I'm somebody that goes through a lot of things physically. Sometimes my body's great. Sometimes it's very angry. We figure things out, they ebb and flow. But with that, and being someone who has both done physical and person work, everybody has a role to play. And so we'll talk about that as well. I'm sorry you're scared, Natalie. You stay with us, okay? We're gonna work it out. We'll be okay. I say we'll be okay, and I do always mean that. Trying to find, yes, okay, I got you. How AI plays a role. I actually do need to look into that a little bit more because that's helpful. Yes, and modern communities. Yes, that's wonderful. Okay, I think I've gotten almost everything else. So it's going to be a journey. I'm so grateful and excited to have any of you on here. I'm truly my heart is warm. I love it. I'm a nerd. I enjoy it. And I appreciate y'all for being so flexible. The role of queer and trans people in revolution. Yes. Okay, I'm gonna give you all a couple more minutes to keep thinking through. And again, if you can't, figure out how to send it now, if you're thinking about it, you can message it to me. Again, I do really well now at really trying to make sure that I'm going through and keeping up to date on messages and things. Connection to the global communities. Yes, here we go. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. And anybody that had any accessibility concerns, it should still have given the option to have captions on here, but if because of the delay you had any issues, just send me a message because I'm going to try and download this and upload it. We'll see if it cooperates. Fingers crossed. And I just accidentally closed Instagram. My bad. Because of everything that has been happening so far. I think I got everything. Okay, well, I want to thank you all for giving me your time. The next class is going to be on Tuesday. Let me take a screenshot of that too. The next class is going to be on Tuesday. So it's going to be same format. I'm going to test YouTube out probably for half the day beforehand. Again, I'll still go live on some of these other platforms as well, but I really want for folks to just hone in on YouTube. It's a lot better. typically less issues, and I want for people to be able to see the presentations and engage in the chat. So you obviously don't have to do whatever is going to be best for you long term, but also captions won't come on YouTube. Okay, that's good to know. So I'll have to make sure I can double check on that. Yes, it'll also still be at 7 Central Time. I'm going to be sending an email out to everybody because I also know that we have a lot of people at International, which is awesome. I absolutely love it. And because of the time zones, we're not able to join and won't be able to join at that time period. So I'll be scheduling, and I sent this in the email, 2 classes that are going to be makeup classes. Anybody can come to them, but they're going to be done by polling, and they're going to be specifically geared towards folks who are not in a time zone that's accommodating. Because even people that may be on the East Coast right now and the West Coast, it may be enough of a time difference to just not work depending on your work schedule, life schedule. So be on the lookout for that if you're somebody who, well, I don't know if you'd be on here right now, but if you're somebody who traditionally may have issues with the timing of that, so that we can work on that. That is all for now. I appreciate you guys. I am so blessed to have you guys here. Thank you so much. And we'll be reacquainted on Tuesday. And I'll be sending out an email tomorrow. You'll get all the information. No need to be nervous. All the list, all of the things. If you need to request a book, again, you have the links. And if you didn't get an email, then make sure you send me a message. You don't have any homework yet. I'm going to send out an assignment tomorrow, but nothing too crazy because there are a couple things I wasn't going to get to touch on today because of the technological difficulties. So on a day where you're not at wheelchair tennis practice, no problem. Awesome. Y'all are phenomenal. Thank you so much. Always ask any questions, and I will see you lovelies on Tuesday. Mwah. Peace out. Goodbye, everyone. Ending all the streams. Have a good night.